So we are waiting for the first person to ask a question. We've got hello from Virginia, Anthony Rowlands. Hi, nice to see you, Anthony. And then we've got Levy Monte 288. You've joined us, so we've got some people on here. That's great. Okay, so we're kind of getting people lined up. We'll give people a few more minutes. Maybe somebody wants to ask some questions, and then we can get started with things. And again, I apologize, we're kind of new to this. So female prolapse during heat. Yes, let's talk about that. Great question. That's from Samantha Perez. So we've been through this. So what typically happens is, and it's really well, it's not very common, but it's more likely to happen on first time heats with dogs, where a prolapse is where the vagina telescopes out and you see it hanging out the back end of the dog, and it kind of looks like an orange sticking back there, a nasty red orange. So what do you do about this? Well, the answer is, if it's not very big, probably just do nothing, put some Vaseline on it. If it's bigger than a tangerine, then that is a danger for the dog because he can get hung up on something or another dog could bite it. You can still AI a dog with a prolapse. The secret to the prolapse is, number one, don't do a C-section, don't have a natural birth if a dog's prone to a prolapse, because it could prolapse during birth and that would be a big problem. So what you do is if it's a big prolapse and you can't get it under control, go to your vet. They can sedate the dog, push it back in place, and then put a couple of stitches around the opening of the vagina, what's called a purse stitch, hold it back in place, and it will go away after the heat is finished. So it's not the end of breeding your dog, and it's not a disastrous situation. I've bred quite a few dogs with prolapses quite successfully, but you need to pay attention to it. Like I said, if it gets too big, go to the vet. All right, had some more questions here. So someone's asked about the shrinking litter size. So there's people out there who don't want to have large litters. And so how do you control that? The answer is not much that you could do. So you certainly could breed late. That would reduce litter size, but you've got this big situation where you may end up with no puppies at all. So you don't have any sensible control over this. And I mean, the idea about breeding late likely end up with no puppies at all. So honestly, it is not a function of the male, it's a function of the female. It's a function of three things. Historically, what litters the females have had in the past, or maybe the litter they came from, timing this C-section correctly, which is the thing that I was talking about that you could control, and the quality of the semen. If you've got poor quality semen, then you may get small or no litter at all. Honestly, there's no acceptable way that I'm aware of that you can control this. You just got to accept it. And if you get a big litter, knuckle down and get down to business. Somebody's asking about reflection colors on eyes. I'm going to read this real quick. Okay, I'll answer that question for Levy here in a second. So on the eye color reflection, the red eye glow color that you see in a dark room when you have the video light on your camera, the camera light on, if it's a demonic red that stays there all the time or most of the time, that signifies that either you've got a moral dog on your hands, or it's got 2 copies of Coco, or it's got 2 copies of Little B. So the only time that's good deal. So you can see the oh, cool, good deal, right? So Tammy's my savior.
Yeah,
thanks,
whatever.
Tammy. Thanks, Tammy. So she's now got it, so I can read your comments because they fly across the screen. Remember, we're new to this, so we know a lot about dogs, but we know squat about live streaming. All right, very good. Okay,
we're learning.
Okay, what dewormer do you use for Coxidia? All right, so we worm our dogs. Well, first off, worm your mum 10 days before for 3 days with Safeguard, and worm your mum 7 days after, again with Safeguard for 3 days. So basically,
but they should weigh her.
Yeah, you got to weigh her to get the amount of Safeguard right. You can buy Safeguard over the counter. Don't have to have a prescription for it. The dosage is 1 ml per 5 pounds. 3 days in a row, and it is a generally great product to stop worms. Now, that's not what you use in puppies. So in puppies, you start off with parental palemate at 2 weeks and 4 weeks, and it's a 1 dosage deal, and I don't know the dosage, and you can buy that on Amazon. Nemex 2 is the same thing. It's a lot more expensive, but that will work as well. And then you then worm with Safeguard at 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. But it's not the best treatment for Coxidia. So what is the right treatment for Coxidia? The answer is Albon, which you can get from your vet. It's a prescription drug. And you give that for 5 to 7 days. or the product that we use is Prenatal, and you can buy that from racehorse.com, and that's a really effective treatment for it, and it's actually a pre-treatment for it as well. So we automatically give that. After we've done their first wormings, we'll give them a dosage of that, and then we'll probably give it to them every couple of weeks.
But always weigh your
Yes,
dog.
right.
Or puppies before
Right.
you give. And then you can figure out the dosage.
So somebody corrected me. Jennifer said, I'm not asking about how many puppies in the litter, I'm asking about the size of the animals in the litter. Well, so what dictates the size of puppies that you produce? And Tammy, you want to say something on that?
Well,
What would you choose? What would you, if you want small dogs or big dogs, what would you choose?
well, I would choose small.
How would you do that? What were you? What I'm getting at here is, if you want small puppies, you better have small parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've got a big girl and you want smaller puppies, choose a small stud. Will it fix the problem all the way across the board?
Sometimes.
No, but it'll fix some of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, remember that the size of the puppies is a combination of both DNA, 50-50 from both parents, and that means it comes from 25% from all the grandparents and 12.5%
That's what I
from
was fixing to say.
maybe great-grandparent.
Yeah,
So
you
you
got grandparents, great-grandparents.
Yeah.
Whatever is down that gene.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you do have control over this, and the answer is pick
Not gene, but
the
generations.
size of for the stud or the female for the size of the puppies. If you want small puppies, small studs, small females. Levy says, I have a female that has 3 heats back to back every 7 months, but now she hasn't gotten to heat in over a year. Is this normal, or is there something wrong with her? Let's talk about Kit.
Yeah, Kit's doing the same thing. And we like to do 1 skip a heat or 2 skip a heat. And Kit had 2 heats that we bred.
And we skipped.
And we skipped. Of
And
course,
then-
we waited till her second heat.
Then what happened?
And so now
How's it going?
she may be telling us she's done.
That could be it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what do you
your
do in
females
this?
usually do that. They'll tell
Yeah.
you when they're through.
Yeah. So there are some products out there, like for instance, PG600 that you can give to a female to bring her back into heat. We've never done it. I don't recommend it. I would only give that to a dog that's never had a heat, or it's been a couple of years from heats and is not an older dog. So
At least a couple of years.
yeah.
from
So we're not a big
having heat.
proponent of that. It's actually
Yeah.
used for used for swine to bring them in.
Got to be super careful because this can tear up the uterus in your female.
Well, or maybe make it where it never comes to the heat again. So again,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of experience on that.
So,
but
yeah.
anyway.
I'd be leery.
Yeah, right. So anyway, but there's not a lot you can do. Well, there is one other thing you can do. If you've got a dog that's not coming to heat, put it with another house or with another female that's in heat. That can do magical things.
Yeah.
All right. Would you keep the runs of the litter that also had the best DNA? Well, what would
Never
you
had
do?
a problem with the run of the litter.
Right.
When you say run, when they're just small and tiny, you know, they're just small to start with. They can start out small and end up being the biggest puppy out of the group. So
And I'm going to get you to say one more thing about how you pick a puppy out from the litter. Small you like. What else do you like?
their conformation.
That's right,
That's the
structure.
key.
So if you've got-
Structure,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it, conformation.
Right.
When I say cobby, that means little tiny short things.
That's Tammy's number 1 pick for a
Yeah.
dog. Always, isn't it, Tammy?
Yeah,
It is.
It's
So if-
cobbiness, but I'm also looking at the rest of the structure too. So I'm, you know,
So if you're
it's
looking
hard
at,
to get it all together in one deal,
If-
DNA and structure.
Right.
Very hard, and it's,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so what you do is you pick the dog that you want, you breed that dog, you get a puppy from that you really like, and you build on that foundation, don't you? Right. So back to what, this structure business, if you've got a dog with great DNA, but it's really weak looking, it's got, a weak back end, or it's got a big nose, or it's got long legs, that's not the dog we would keep, right? So we
and I also look at grandparents,
yes.
parents, grandparents, when I'm picking out a puppy. But anywho, that helps.
Patrick Rose says, my first time producing platinums, I know the pricing is subjective, but if you could, is there a price you would suggest? Thank you. It's all over the place. Right now the market's a bit rough, so what do you do in this? Well, I think the first thing is you've got to decide what the area is that you're selling your dogs. If you're selling your dogs locally, you've got to look and see what your competition is. If you're selling your dogs throughout the United States, then you've got a much bigger marketplace. And then the price
You've
of
got
those...
the internet, that
Right.
helps.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer this question, and I mean, the prices are, Tammy doesn't even like it when I do this, do you?
No, I don't.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
No,
Because it's
no.
all about upsetting Tammy, right? So I'm going to ask her.
You do that quite often. He's a professional at that.
I am. I've had a lot of experience with it. So, but I mean, it's a fair enough question. So I'm going to try and answer it. But remember, my statements are relatively meaningless. So what is the range of prices for a straight platinum Frenchie? No other stuff going on here. I'm assuming it's a platinum that doesn't have brindle. It's not a fluffy, doesn't have tan points. And is it a boy or a girl? If it's a girl, it's going to go for more money than a boy. If it's a girl, the top end of that market for a platinum probably going to be something around 12 to 14K, I'm going to say. And the bottom end of that market might be 3K. And it's a big, big range. It just depends on your...
It's all over the place.
Do you like those prices?
Really. It's all over the place, but let me tell you, the honesty and trust that you have in the person you're buying from has that also,
yep.
with the background history of the parents.
Yep. Anthony, and of course the other thing about this is also dependent on your reputation, the structure of the dog, and your ability to market it. All of those things come into. By the way, I do have a course. I'm going to pump myself here. I do have a course on my breeder, on Breeder 101, which is called The Secrets of Selling Puppies. And it tells you about all the techniques that we have learned over the years.
Right,
So if you're
and remember, we've been in Frenchie business
for a long time.
For 22 years. In the other world that we had Labradors before the Frenchies, that was 8 years. So we've had 30 plus years in what we've been doing. So,
right, so this is the next question, because they're rolling up really fast.
Yeah,
What is the best color to breed with a brindle?
something without a brindle.
Yes, that's for Tammy and me. Look.
And we have nothing against
That's
brindles.
Right. That's right.
Because we used to have brindles.
That's right.
Tigra was my reverse brindle.
She was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. But the reason why we don't is because we're high up on the tan points. And when you add a brindle to that, it can ruin those tan points.
We don't see them hardly at all, do you? Yep. So what is the best to put with the brindle? If you want brindle dogs, another brindle for sure.
Yeah.
If you don't want brindle dogs, then a dog that doesn't have brindle. If you
But I
do
always
that,
thought it was a jackpot when you got a reverse brindle because they're strikingly beautiful.
But if you have a brindle dog that has a single copy of brindle and you breed that to a non-brindle dog, half the litter on average are going to be brindles and half won't be. And you'll have to test for it because it may fool you. And by the way, if the dog's a cream, you won't see it, and if it's a merle, you'll have a hard time knowing it's brindle.
And let me just say this, there's a lot of people that says structure comes from your brindle, and color has nothing to do with the structure of the dog.
Right, that's right. So we're going to roll through these because there's so many. The Muffin says, we love merles, people love merles. We do too. Do you love merles?
Yes.
I love merles.
Oh, it's like the pieds and the merles. They're very eye-catching. It's so unique looking. And
why are show breeders so against merle?
I don't know.
I do.
Okay, tell us.
They are so against.
Oh, wise one.
The show ring crowd are very against all of these, what they call exotic colors, the ones that are not on the AKC ring. So the only colors that you can show and get anywhere with would be creams, fawns, brindles, and pied variations of those. Every other color, blues, chocolates, rojos, big ropes, velvets, fluffies, lilacs, they are not in the show ring, and those show ring people think that we should all be taken out the back 40 and shot in the head. That's the truth of it. Things might change, but as of right now, and it has been...
And it's a shame because we've got all colors that are beautifully structured for, you know.
So just remember, if you're going to breed a merle and produce merles, there are going to be people who are going to bash you. And I mean, here's the way that Tammy and I treat this. We don't want to get into an argument with we don't want to get into an argument with anybody, and each to their own, and we respect that. But we do breed merles, and it's not against the AKC. There's nothing here that says you can't do it. We just realize that they can't go in the show ring, and we're absolutely straightforward about that with our customers. All right, so that's that one. So some people are asking more things about price. I'm not really going to get into this because I think that it's not very meaningful. But I mean, you know, somebody's asking here about a Rojo Merle Fluff with tan points with good structure. That's a great dog. I mean, that's an expensive dog. So how expensive is that dog? Something between $10,000 and $20,000, I would think, in today's market. But I mean, if you look
way low on 10.
If you looked at that market 2 years ago, it might have been a $100,000 dog.
All right, go on.
What is the best supplement to give your puppies?
Well, nothing's better than mama, but if mama can't, you go to goat's milk Or the, what is it, Epsilac?
Yeah, well, it's Espilac.
Yeah, it's
but they're not really asking that. What they're asking
Oh,
for is
okay.
what do you give in terms of, do you give vitamins? Do you give...
On a puppy?
Yes,
Or a
probiotics.
vomit?
Do
Well,
you,
on puppies, when they reach a certain age, you can do
so when do you start doing
probiotics.
that?
Probably not until they're 7, 8 weeks old.
Right.
If they need it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you give me a
But
sense...
vitamins, you don't,
Right. If you
I'm
give-
never gonna, they do have puppy vitamins, but
You
I've
don't use
never,
them? So, I mean, there's a whole controversy
when they get
about...
older, I do.
About this whole vitamin thing, is whether it's even absorbed by humans or dogs anyway. So the whole thing is kind of a bit mute as to how effective it is. But look, I think the general rule is,
I'm a believer in vitamins.
you are, I'm not.
Yeah.
But she tries to get me to take vitamins every day, and I just tell her, yeah, I took them. And
I give my dogs
didn't.
vitamins, yeah.
So
When
probiotics-
They're at least a year old.
If you've got a dog that's got an upset stomach, then I would try probiotics for sure, right? Even a puppy that's...
And everything we're talking about, we sell on mybreedersupply.com.
Right, yes. But a balanced diet from a reputable company is probably the key to getting things right. So that's probably the first thing. Okay. So I did my first breeding on day 27, 28. Just started giving her prenatal vitamins. Is there something I should worry about? I can tell you the one thing that we didn't discuss that you absolutely should be doing is giving folic acid.
Oh, yeah. Have we not said that?
No, we have not said that. So what's
The
the...
day she gets bred, start giving her,
5 milligrams.
yeah.
That's an awful lot, it
Folic
seems
acid.
like. Yeah. If you look at most of these supplements like Oxymama, they have about 800 mics, which is 0.8 of a gram. It's not enough.
Do we sell that too?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, Cody may have, I don't know the answer to
he
that. On My
might.
Breeder
You
Supply,
might
Cody's
check
got
it.
all kinds of stuff. But the point here is, in humans we do this these days. In pregnant mums, we get them to take folic acid. And what it does is it helps with some of the problems that can cause malfunction of the fetus in the first, trimester or two.
Cleft palate.
Yes, so there is
Yeah.
some evidence that the first thing is it doesn't do any harm, and there's some anecdotal evidence that it potentially does some good. So I recommend, and we do this, is that you give 5 milligrams of folic acid to your girls. It's dirt cheap. You can buy 100 tablets for like $9 on
It's
Amazon.
once a day.
In fact, Cody's got it. Cody's got it on his website now.
Oh, okay,
So
good.
Cody's got it. You can
Good,
go buy it
yeah.
right there at My Breeder Supply. I would
Yeah.
absolutely go for that.
Yeah. Once a day,
Yep.
the day she's bred.
And somebody texted, don't forget folic acid from Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. I didn't even read that,
Yeah.
but you're right. Recommended by you a few years ago. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Very good. Right. Okay. Right. Got this thing. How old is too old to breed? I have a 3.5-year-old that hasn't been bred yet.
Female,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yes, right,
Yeah,
right,
I'm
right.
not thinking of, because I had a guy call about his stud that he hadn't used.
So
Yeah.
we'll get to that here in a
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So the first off, there is no rules or regulations from the AKC that says how many litters a dog can have. They have nothing to say about this.
But it depends on the health of the female.
That's up to you to decide that.
Right,
And-
right.
and
But
then-
if she's 3.5 years old and you haven't never bred her and she's still coming into heat, breed her.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the way we go at this. Every time that you have a litter, we do a C-section.
Right. And we always ask our vet, how does she look on the inside?
You've got to open the hood up and look at the engine.
And we're right there in there too.
Yes,
that
and we get to look
look.
ourselves. And
Yeah.
so when we look and say,
Yeah.
I don't see any adhesions, what do you think, Doc? And so what you're looking for is thinning spots in the uterus, adhesions, or not cysts, but cysts basically. What you're looking for is the health of the uterus. If the health of the uterus is good, then the next thing would be is that she bounces back from the previous litter. It was a successful litter. You didn't have any problems. You enjoyed it. It was an easy time. Breed her again. Absolutely. When do you stop doing it? Well, Kit, we just talked about, is probably telling us that she's had enough. She is now, what's she, 5
And
now?
I'm just going to let her do her thing.
How old is she now?
Oh, she's probably 4.5.
4.5, pushing on 5. And so she may just have 2 litters to be done.
Oh, yeah, she's probably pushing up 5, yeah.
Yes. We've had dogs that have had 5 litters. So,
When you're having fun, time flies.
have we ever had a litter where we thought afterwards that we made a mistake and we shouldn't have that litter? Have we had that happen to us?
No.
That's right.
No.
Not one time.
No, because I put the strains on James. Or
Well, we have had some
Rains,
small. We have had some
fullback.
small litters. I mean, if you ever start having singleton pups, you know that's no fun for anybody, and that
No,
probably,
no.
you know, if you start to get a run of those together, then it's probably time to retire that dog,
But
right?
if your female bounces back and running around and good and healthy, go ahead and breed her again. But I like to do 2 in 1, like 2 litters, give her a break. There's some people that do it back to back.
Muffin said,
different.
we have a DNA test down, an OFA, great, never breed a Merle to Merle. Yes, right, you've got a
Yeah.
Merle stud. Yeah, so why are some people against them? So that was back to the other thing, but I mean, I think the thing about Merles to pay attention to is you don't breed a Merle to Merle. Why do you not breed a Merle to
Because
Merle?
you have death or blindness happen when you do Merle to Merle. Now, cryptic Merle, you can breed
What's a
to
cryptic
another
Merle?
Merle. It's a dog that does not show Merle on the outside, but he carries the gene on the inside.
You do a test and it has a low number.
Please
on the
do
test.
your animal
DNA,
genetic
right. You
testing.
can find out
on
what kind of-
DNAs.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Very important.
and there's one other situation you don't breed together.
Oh, the pieds, the
Extreme pies.
extreme pied to another pied. Be very careful about that. Because sometimes if they're, we had a litter one time, had no clue we had a deaf puppy. And because it got up and ran with the rest of them, played with the rest of them because it knew, you know, we had no clue until it got off by itself with the new owner. And the new owner thought, oh my gosh, I've got a dead puppy. It didn't wake up one morning, you know, but it did wake up. It just didn't hear it like when it was with its brothers and sisters, didn't feel the vibrations of people moving. And she said she went running over there and tapped that cage, and she woke up and
From
she
the
went,
vibration.
she's alive, you know.
Yes.
And
We
but
took
that was
dog.
new.
She came back to us,
that was
didn't we?
about
We
15 years
Yeah,
ago.
we rehomed
probably.
her.
Yeah.
And then she went on to be a happy dog.
Yeah, learned sign
She learned
language.
sign language, right, exactly.
Yeah. So
But-
she had a great home.
So if you've got an extreme pie, that would be a dog that actually looks almost completely snow white.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
giveable. It's not
No
cream. It's,
color on the ears, and I always tried to figure out
Right.
why is it, because if you don't have any color on the ears.
well, it's to do with the way that the ears form during the first trimester.
Okay.
But the point here is if you've got a dog that's predominantly white on its face, or it's a pied dog with very little color, be careful. You can breed that dog, just do not breed,
Breed
that
it to a solid.
Or it's a dog that just has no copy of pied at all, not even the pied carrier, just a non-pied dog, and you'd probably be okay. What's the best way to communicate with you about studs? So the answer is, there's a couple of ways you can do this. First off is you can call Cody, 806-664-0173. Cody's our son. You can call me, 580-799-2873. I've got quite a few people here who've asked about their DNA and what they'd match that dog to. Give us a call. It's free. We will discuss the DNA of your dog, what that dog is, what colors it can produce, what we have to offer, whether that makes sense for you. And Cody has got some fantastic programs right now. Right now, he will...
Great specials.
He's got some really great... He will finance the majority of your breeding where you don't pay for most of it till the back end. He's got a guarantee on everything. He'll give you a free incubator if you pay within 50 days. Right.
of
You get half
breeding.
price breedings on every female you produce from a breed for lifetime. For any female that you produce from a dog that you've bred with one of his, and that is for the offspring, and it goes to your customers as
one
well.
of my breeder supplies.
That's a hell of a deal.
Studs, yeah.
That's right. It's a hell of a deal. It really
Yeah.
is.
Be sure and check that out because there's a lot of good deals on there on mybreedersupply.com.
So
on the
somebody's
studs
asked about cryptic
also.
Merle. We'll just mention that one more time. So the cryptic Merle would be a dog that you've bred. You've got a puppy that was bred from a Merle dog, and a Merle litter, and it doesn't look to be Merle. You probably need to test for that dog to find out whether or not it's cryptic Merle. If it's visually Merle, you don't need to do the test.
Yeah.
So there's no
You know
point.
it's a Merle.
Yeah, we don't do tests on Merle dogs that are visually Merle.
There's some people that are doing tests now to get the numbers.
Yeah, well that's right.
Yeah.
So that you get a
Yeah.
number with this. It
Because
tells you.
we get puppies that'll be a Harlequin Tweed Merles, and those are fantastic.
And they're
then
high
the
number.
Tweed Merles.
They're
so-
high numbers. They're in the
Yeah.
400s
yeah,
or something.
Yeah,
So.
but it's automatic. You know what a Harlequin Tweed is because of the white is so white.
So
with
look
the
at
Merle
Mando.
colors.
Mando's one of Cody's blue and tan, carries cocoa and
Oh,
cream.
he throws so many Merle babies.
It's beautiful
This last
monsters.
litter of 8 that we had, there was 5 Merles in that, and beautiful babies. So Mando's been throwing some big litters,
Yes.
and lots of flashy color.
How can you tell if a newborn is fluffy or not? There's a good question right there. So what's the answer to that one, Tammy?
Oh, sometimes it's automatic. You know it immediately. And then there's sometimes it takes up to 6 days before you go, okay.
Yes. So the answer on this is that most of the time it's a guessing game. And you really can't tell what's going on until they are a couple of weeks old. A part of the problem with this is that you can have 3 possibilities. You could have a totally not fluffy, a fluffy carrier, a full fluffy. A fluffy carrier tends to, as it gets older, has a...
Oh, they have a thicker coat.
It's a real,
real soft.
It's not long, is it? But it's just,
no, it's
just a really pretty thick
And there's
coat.
sometimes that they are a little bit longer than, you know, but most of the time it's a thicker coat, very soft. And if you have the no shed gene like what we do, it's great.
So we've got quite a bit of experience with this with
Yeah.
puppies that are either fluffy carriers or full fluffies in the litter. And we've actually been about 100% right on guessing this. But you're not too sure typically until they're about a week old, and then you can typically tell what's going on. But it's certainly, got to be careful here, because if you're putting DNA up on a puppy and you're saying it's a full fluffy and it's not, you're going to have some upset people with you. So I would recommend DNA test. It's I mean it's with a coat
To me,
color.
I think you have to. I do.
Yeah,
you just need to.
Right, with a full
How about
coat
that
color
one?
on animal.
You need to, especially if you're selling puppies.
I think
you
so.
need to. Because
If
you
you're
can upset some people if
quite
you
rightfully.
don't think you have a brindle in your litter,
And you do.
and you think, oh, they don't have brindle.
But if you're
and then
selling-
they do, then somebody's going to be really upset and hurt, and there's
If you're
not gonna
selling
be a happy
if you're selling
ending to
a
that.
puppy as pet only, then I mean this is irrelevant.
some people that just
because
don't.
it's a visual look to the dog and that's what they're buying. The problem gets to be if you're selling a dog that someone wants to have puppies from or make it a stud dog, then it's very important. And if you get it wrong, then you're going to get it wrong one of 2 ways. You short sold yourself because the dog's got more DNA than what you said, or worse yet, somebody got a dog from you, they go do their own testing, they come back to you and say, James, you got that wrong. You sold me a puppy that was this, and it's that. And that is not a good, I've never been in that situation, don't ever want to be there. So,
But just remember, the DNA, the more DNA, the more valuable that puppy is if you're doing breedings. And it's great to have.
how do you stop a French Bulldog from itching?
Oatmeal baths, regular baths, changing the bedding. If they're itching because you think maybe they might have an allergy, change your soap on what you're washing your bedding with.
So there are a number of reasons that a dog might be itching. One would be
Grass
something.
allergies.
Well, one might be something like mites, or fleas, which of course you can completely control, and you can see the evidence of those things typically by little white specks on their bedding. So that if you've got a
Black.
dog, little black specks. Right? So, what did I say? White specks.
You said white.
Sorry,
it's
black
black.
specks.
Yeah, those
May
are
even
the
see them.
eggs.
Look between their
You
paws.
don't want that in your house.
No, you don't. Or underneath their armpits, you might see some evidence of this. And
Just go up against the like
look.
their hair, the way their hair grows.
Yeah, and
go
look.
up against it.
to see things
And-
running around.
Yeah.
You got fleas.
Little black thing. And the Dawn dish soap goes great. You don't want to get it in their eyes.
Yes.
But
So-
that'll do it too. But
So I'm not-
there's other things.
We're not going to go
Yeah,
very long
okay.
on this, but just a couple of things on this. There are things that you can give for fleas. That's one thing.
Yeah.
So there's the next thing would be mange. A dog can have mange, sarcoptic or red mange. Those things, they've got different treatments for those. The red mange is a lot more serious. That could cause itching. Tends to be starting off on the feet first, maybe on the face or on the eyebrows.
And under the
Then the more common thing is allergic reaction to something. Might be seasonal. Tammy has an allergic reaction to
I didn't get it till I was 17.
what?
To almost everything allergy-wise,
Cedar
as
trees.
in cedar
Tree
trees.
to tree. Cedar oil, if you brush against cedar oil, it makes
Yeah.
it itch like crazy.
Yeah.
Dogs can have the same thing. So you can have an environmental
They're just
allergy.
like humans.
Yep, so grass, plants, how do you control that? Don't let them go in those environments. Could be food-based allergy. So there may be something in their food. It could be something in the detergent. You're on a quest to start eliminating things and get this dog back to being happy. And it can be a challenge sometimes. So VTop38 says, just getting started in your program, would you use a known breeder or just buy your own stud? I feel like using known breeders is bad luck. I don't know why that is. Well, okay. So let's talk about Tammy and I and our first venture into French Bulldogs and how we started this. Did we buy a stud dog?
Not in the beginning.
Not in
no.
the beginning. Why not?
Because we were more interested in getting a female.
Because you're more interested in having babies. So there's two completely different businesses that we're talking about here. One is having a dog. Well, first off, if this dog is a dog in your house and it's your pet, like a lot of ours are, then, you know, fine, whatever you do. The problem with a male dog that's a stud dog in your house, he's likely to start peeing on things. And so that's a separate problem. So,
And they have little things you can buy to put.
and yes, they do. And we've had, when we first had our first French Bulldog stud, he was in the house with us.
Yeah, and he didn't mark.
He didn't mark, did he?
No. Luck of the draw, I think.
Yeah, some of it, yeah. But the point here is...
That was a little man.
I think that if you are going to be a stud dog owner, you've got to learn about all of it. You've got to help your customers. You have to know both sides of the equation, and that is not a place to start. I would start by, and remember there's another part to this as well. If you have a stud dog and then you produce, and you've got one female and you produce a litter, you cannot use that stud dog back to your females. You're in the stud business at this point. You're not in the puppy producing business.
Females from that litter.
Yeah, you cannot breed, I mean, you don't want to breed a dad back to a daughter. That would not be ethical or a good thing. I mean, people do that, and the AKC's got no, but we're not going to do it.
No.
So
AKC's
my point here is...
also to do brother to sister, and that's
Oh yeah,
awful.
they have no say in it, they're fine with it.
You might get by with it one time, but...
you might not.
You might not.
I mean, when we say get by with it, what we're talking about is you could have some really serious problems in those puppies, and that's a whole other conversation. But I think the takeaway on this is if you are going to have a stud dog, you need to have some litters first and understand the whole process. And it doesn't make sense to have a stud dog...
To make sure you want to even get into it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, okay. Would you ship semen to Halifax, Nova Scotia? Well, we do. We use our shipmate product, which is our computer-controlled, patented by Tammy and I, a product that lets you have shipments that last for days.
And it'll let that go for how long, do you think?
Well, I mean,
it was up to what, 10 days that one time?
Well, you can keep semen alive for 10 days in it, but you can't do a shipment that lasts for 10 days unless you have a very big box with a lot of ice, and then you could do it. You could even ship to somewhere like Australia, but that has other problems, by the way, so that's a whole other conversation. But the answer is, if you're going to do a shipment that's going to go for more than 24 hours, and if the trouble is every shipment you do could, because of delays, like we had one the other day, Shipmate will save you lunch.
And that's what we sell on mybreedersupply.com. James invented it.
You guys have already made millions. Why can't you give up better deals on stud fees? Well, we have. So if you look at Cody's stuff, Cody whacked everything in half as of January 1.
Remember, we spent millions, if you want to call it millions.
Every stud that Cody's got now, as of any breedings after January 1, are entitled to a number of things, including they're half the price they were and less, and they also come with guarantees, and they also come with financing, and they come with half price breeding in the future. So the answer is we are doing some things on this.
I'm thinking this person hasn't looked up www.mybreedersupply in a while and look under studs. You'll see the prices there.
Purple hot kennels. What's up? Can we get the incubators with a clear front view? The answer on this is I actually have been working on an incubator that has a round viewing window in the top of it. So that is coming, but it's not here for another few months. And that's a Cody decision, because these days, I'm just the spokesperson these days. It's Cody's business. Cody gets advice from me. I get advice from him. We talk about the things that make sense. So, he has to...
Cody's our son.
Yes, Cody's our son. He's got to get this in his manufacturing process, but the answer is I think he probably might do something on this. So somebody's asking about what tests can you do for allergies. I mean, there are some tests that you can do for allergies. I never had it done, so I don't know how effective it is to find out what your dog might... with humans, they do this, scratch test on your arm. I don't know what's available for dogs. I mean, it's maybe, I don't know. Food.
I know one thing we need to talk about.
Brucelosis.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a second. Food recommendations for pregnant Frenchies. You're up.
Food recommendations. Okay. Well, people, there's some you can buy. The day they're pregnant.
Yep.
The week before they have babies.
Yep.
Let's just say that. For sure, the week before they have babies, I feed Biljack.
Yes.
And
why?
It's just great.
Because they love it.
Yeah, they love it. It's very good. I don't have dog food in front of me to read the
So Bilger
ingredients,
is
but
in the
it's
frozen,
great for mama
frozen
dogs.
department of Walmart.
Yeah,
You cannot
it's
get
an
it.
orangey yellow bag.
You cannot get it west of the
Yeah.
Rockies. You have to be east of the Rockies to find it in a Walmart in the frozen section. It's not cheap. It's about $8 for a 5-pound
No,
bag.
no. It's almost 10 now.
Is it really? Okay,
Almost
so there you go.
$10 now. It's gone up.
Inflation's not going
Yeah.
up. There's nothing about inflation done. But the
But
reason,
it's good stuff. You're
Yeah.
feeding real good stuff.
So
to
one
that.
of the things that you will find quite often, especially after mom has had babies, her appetite goes to crap. And she's got to have lots of calories because she's not only feeding herself, but she's feeding puppies, and those puppies have got to come from somewhere. And if she's
Yeah.
not getting a good diet, she'll take calcium out of her bones, and she'll look like skin and bones
That's where
herself.
cottage cheese steps in.
Yes.
You don't want to feed that a lot because you'll notice that the puppy's stool is not just great. But you want to at least get 5 days of cottage cheese mixed up with that.
After they've
After
had
the
puppies, not
After-
before.
yeah.
Not before. You can mess up
Well,
the
I
calcium cycle and get
Just said the puppy's stool.
Yeah,
Look.
right. So what Tammy does is this: she switches to a puppy food, a high protein food.
The day they're born, or the day that mama gets pregnant, she goes on puppy food, which we sell the
Life's
puppy,
Abundance.
Life
Life's
Abundance
Right,
puppy.
right.
And she gets that when she gets bred. She starts eating that.
And the reason that Tammy does that is because we don't want a skinny dog going into having babies. We would rather have a slightly
Because
fat
they get
dog.
pulled down so much when they're feeding their babies.
You have a litter of 10 puppies, I don't care what you feed, your dog's going to look rough. By the time you're starting to wean around week 4, you're going to want to wean them early if they're in that situation.
And used to, I would
Yeah.
sprinkle goat's milk on their
Yes,
food.
and
too.
how much food do you give them? When do you feed your dogs and how
As
often?
much as she wants.
As much as she wants. So you leave food in there for her all the time. We don't hold
We
food
know what
back.
us pregnant women went through of
Yeah, we don't hold food back.
eating. Everything was good for me.
The only thing I would say about that is, as the puppies get older, some mums can get upset when the babies start to eat the food out of their bowl. So just be a little careful on that.
Always.
Most dogs are okay, but just pay
Need to be
attention.
supervised.
Yeah, they just pay attention to it.
We've
Right.
been blessed with great mamas. They're worth their weight in gold over and over again when they can eat with the babies, share with the babies.
So
great.
Purple Hot Kennel says, yeah, Publix has it too. Yeah, good. We're talking about Bill Jack.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Publix.
right. Publix. Publix is down there in Florida. I know it's other places
Oh,
too. I'm
okay.
sure. Yes.
It's great stuff.
It used to be $5 a bag years ago.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, steak used to be $5 a
Yeah, and then when it
pound,
went
too.
to 7, I was
Yeah.
griping.
Yeah,
Now
right.
it's doubled.
Yeah. So Tammy just mentioned something about, and she was going to start talking about brucellosis. So we're going to give you a little talk about brucellosis. And why so brucellosis is a sexually transmitted disease. Every dog that comes to us to be bred, before it does anything on our property, we pull blood, because we can do that for progesterone test anyway, and it gets a brucellosis test. Cody sells those. They're like $9 a test, and it's very quick. It takes about 5 minutes. But if your dog has brucellosis, you have a big problem. You're likely to have a failed litter. You're likely to have dead puppies inside mom that she could get really in trouble.
And it'll go through your clinic like
And
wildfire.
every dog you
your
have
kennel.
likely will get it, and you can't fix it.
And it's not just through sexual transmitted. You know, it's
Right, but-
drinking the water.
Yes.
The stud dogs are licking the females
Yes,
to
right.
breed a female.
So this
You know, you got to be.
This worries us about going to the
yeah.
shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
because the problem is apparently the incident rate, especially down in the southeast, is up to 9%. I think that's a high number. But still, the problem, by the way, you as a human can get it too. Now, it's uncommon, and there's various different forms of bruce. If you all watched, what's the show that you really like,
You're
Yellowstone?
saying from your
Yellowstone?
dog, yeah. Oh, when their cattle
cows,
got
the whole-
brucellosis.
they
You
had
know
to
what
just-
they had to do with
They
that.
destroyed the entire herd.
And that's the truth there. They
Some
had to
states,
shoot
if you
them
have
off.
brucellosis, it's required that the State Department
Yeah.
knows. And the State Department will then require that you euthanize the dog.
Right.
Anytime that you get a dog that's 6 months or older that comes into your kennel or your home, or you're buying a dog or you're breeding a dog, we recommend that you do the
Brucellosis
quick
test.
brucellosis
Yeah.
test. It's just silly
Yeah.
not to do this.
Don't
Right.
take a word from somebody. Have your test with you to test it.
Yep.
And go from there.
Yep.
It's just word of caution right here.
Right.
Big time.
Someone's talking about OFA. So for us, I mean, the OFA, when we had labs, the OFA was a big thing. It's not.
Can I say something else?
Yes,
They
absolutely.
can Google this information too. Please Google about brucellosis in dogs. please do that.
Melissa B says, can you explain Tweed Merls? So why don't you tell about merle colors for us?
Okay, merles, if it's a Tweed Merle, it's got two different colors of shading with, like if you have a blue merle, it'll have a dark blue and a lighter blue. If you have a Harlequin Tweed Merle, it's the white background. Then you've got the two different colors of shading, either blue or lilac, different colors.
So somebody asked here, what if my female hasn't started to heat by 1.5 years old? Wait. Don't get in a hurry. She's like, don't get a panic.
You already said this and said to also put them with other females that are in heat. Put them in the cage together.
Right.
Interact with each other. That'll help bring them into heat.
Samantha Perry, this is a good question. What do you suggest about dual side litters, pros and cons? So I've had some experience with this. You want me to answer this one? Okay, so what we're talking about here is where you've got a female that was then bred to two males. A good example of why this happens is because you've got a sample of semen that was not very good, and so you're scrambling can't use the same dog because his semen wasn't very good. You've already bred him, and so now to try to get a decent litter, you now bring in another dog and breed to a second dog. The AKC, they have no problem with it. You do have to do dual registration, and you do have to do DNA testing on all the dogs if you end up
Which you should do anyway.
Yeah, sometimes there's ways that you can tell whether or not, depending on what the breeding was, whether or not they came from one dog or the other. But if there's any doubt about it, here's the downside to this. It's going to take you time. If you've got to get the DNA test done for parentage it's got to be done with the AKC for dual registration. It'll take you 6 weeks to get the results. And that's after you've sent them off to them. So you could be 8 weeks or longer into this. And then, these puppies have already want new homes and you don't know who the sire is. So you've got a potential problem that side. Then the next thing is, if you don't tell the stud owner that you're using two different people, you may have two stud fees. Someone is not going to like this.
Somebody's not going to be happy.
I've had this happen to me, and I was nice to them, but the point here is you shouldn't do that without letting both stud owners know what the hell's going on. There's going to be legitimate reasons for it, but you better find out ahead of time what that two stud owner is going to do for you, because they may both come to you for a stud fee, and they may not sign off on your litter unless you make them happy. So that's this downside to it. But there's lots of pros for it. Different genetics for different dogs, nothing wrong with it at all. It's just, you've opened up a can of worms. You better have made sure that you understand what the repercussions are, the timing aspect of the getting the DNA parentage done, and handling the stud fees. If it's your own dog, it's obviously not a problem. Somebody says this is really good. Hope you do more of this. Yeah, right.
Thanks. Oh, we were excited to do it again. We've missed it.
F. Fizzle says, my female is 22 pounds. 22 pounds big, a micro Frenchie. Can she have pups?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're doing a C-section.
Would you call that a micro?
No.
I wouldn't call it a micro. No offense to you. It's a small dog. Don't get me wrong. I love 20.
When you're talking micro, you're looking at 14.
Yeah. To us,
16, yeah.
And this is all open to variation.
That may be even smaller.
There's no DNA test that's going to say this dog's a micro.
You don't want to breed her to a 30-pound Frenchie.
But if you do, you better have a C-section. And if she's got lots of puppies, she's going to have a horrible time at the back end of this.
Yeah, she'll have puppies early.
But for us, what we'd really like to see is 18 to 22 pound dogs. That to us is what we really like to see. But we have
17 pound too.
We have bred 16 and 17 pound dogs. We've never had a problem with
our
this.
studs.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, you bet.
We've got studs that are 17.
Yeah, so the breed standard I think is 28 pounds. Anything over 28 is considered too big to be in the show ring. So but there are Frenchies that are 50 pounds. We don't have those dogs, but
those are like English.
Yeah, but
huge.
If you breed a 50 pound dog to a 15 pound dog, someone's going to be pretty uncomfortable, aren't they? Nothing to say you can't do it.
That's where the great-great-grandparents of UK and where it all started.
Have we ever got into problems with puppy sizes and breeding litters where we've got bigger puppies and it's been a problem? No. So we have had some puppies that have turned out, because this is all back to this pedigree and great-great-grandparents.
I had a big female and had her bred, and every litter she had, she threw tiny babies, and we've had some studs that were bigger than what we liked and used them, and they threw tiny babies. So you just don't know.
And something else I'm going to say about that too, if you've got a very small dog, you do want to do an AI. You don't want to let those dogs hook up. You know, a very small dog that's short and small with a bigger male, he could get squished and get his back hurt. So we don't ever do natural breedings. Brucelosis and sexually transmitted diseases are completely avoided. But besides that, aggression and big dogs with small dogs, big male with a small female, they can get hurt. And even a small male with a big female can get hurt, especially in bigger breeds. So just pay attention to that. All right, so how long are we into this? We're 47 minutes. We're just going to answer a couple more.
I didn't think we'd be that long.
Here's a good one from Mafosa. What is the best way to deal with the smallest puppy in the litter that has no drive to feed?
That's what your little traveling incubator is handy for, that you bring home with the babies in it from the vet's office, and leave it plugged in at home, because when you have a tiny puppy like that, you want to keep it gets kicked off from everybody else nursing, and it's off in the corner by itself getting cold. You put it in that traveling incubator, and you keep that baby warm, get it warm first, and then probably do a little bit of tube feeding or bottle feeding.
Nothing like ending the thing with an advert for our products, right?
Right.
So
and everything we're talking about, the puppy care kit, comes with all that stuff.
Yes. So here's the things that you should be doing. If you have a big litter, you're very likely going to have some small puppies in there. You're going to have some variation. It's very likely. For me, a small puppy is a puppy that's 6 ounces or less. Are the puppies that take special care. What should you be doing? Got to keep them warm. An incubator's great. Got to weigh them every single day. You need to get on top of this.
When you get home with that litter, you weigh all those puppies.
And mark them so you know which is which.
Right.
You know, put something down that you can weigh the puppy.
Right. And then you know you're going to lose a half ounce after they're born.
With the first 24
hours. But then they should gain a half ounce every day. And if one just stays the same, don't worry about it. You might give it a little goat's milk to kick it off, and but
supplement it. Yeah. So another great thing that you can do on a puppy, if you've got a puppy that's it's not putting weight on, put your finger in its mouth, and what the response you want to see on every, and you can compare this with other puppies. It should be warm. It should be moist.
And it should
puppy should be suckling. If it's not suckling, time to get out the tube feeding equipment and start tube feeding that puppy, because if you don't do it, you will lose a puppy.
James has got videos on that.
I do. Right.
On tube feeding.
So this is very important.
How to do it.
Right.
How to measure that little tube. It's nerve-wracking when you first do it, but after you do it, it's great.
It's easy. But if you've got a 6 ounce puppy and then all of a sudden,
never want to force that tube down.
No, if you've got a 6 ounce puppy and the next day it's 5.5 ounces, the next day it's 5 ounces, you are headed towards a grave very quickly. Puppies don't have hardly any reserves at all, and so if they get cold or they're not having calories, they'll lose their want to suckle, and you've got to step in, and if you don't do that, unfortunately, you will lose that puppy. There are some other reasons this can happen. Milk inhalation causing pneumonia is quite common, especially in small puppies. Antibiotics, oxygen machine, tube feeding, incubator, those are all things that will make a big difference towards trying to save a puppy. If you get on it early, you pay attention to it, you've got a good chance.
Another thing, getting on it early, when you know nothing's better than being prepared for this pregnancy on mama having babies.
That's right.
You want to make sure you have everything, in a bag before you go to the vet. Have it just like if you're a pregnant woman, you want to have your little to-go bag packed and ready to go in case you got problems down the road.
Or have puppies in the car getting that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Problems down the road.
Yeah, okay. So
as you're going to the vet.
And then the next thing is if you need a tube feeding rig, it's dirt cheap. Cody sells a pack of 2 of them with syringes for I don't know $12 or something. But the point here is,
be prepared.
If you try to buy that, and you go to your vet, I bet they won't have it. And if you need to have that on a Saturday, you are screwed. And Monday comes and the puppy's dead. You don't know when that little bitty puppy's showing up. You need to have this stuff ahead of time. Don't muck around.
Be prepared.
Be prepared, yeah.
Have your traveling incubator. Have your heated whelping system. Have your oxygen concentrator. If you can get all these, get them and get it 2 months before mom. You've got 63 days to be prepared for this. You can get these way before mama has her babies, and you're going to be prepared. Have the puppy care kit, because it comes with the tube feed.
Not expensive.
It comes with the little, what's that little syringe thing that sucks out the little snot, the fluid what's that called?
Aspiration bulb,
Yeah.
I guess. Something like that.
But just prepare yourself before that happens.
I mean, some people say, look, I understand if you're going to have 1 litter and that's it, that maybe you don't want to invest in something like an oxygen concentrator that's fairly expensive. I mean, they're like pushing $500. I understand that. But look, if you are going to plan on having a number of litters, you should have this equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to necessarily buy it from My Breeder Supply. It's a great source for this. You get all of our help with it, but whatever you do, go get it. Okay.
The progesterone machine's fantastic.
That's
too.
almost an hour.
All this that we mentioned, we do sell on www.mybreedersupply.com.
Yes.
But,
Right. Yes.
All
right.
but
So
you just need to
we don't want to turn this
yourself.
into an
No.
advert for our
No,
products, but they
it
are
comes
there.
down to it.
They are there to be had, and they're there. And then this is the last thing I'm going to say about this before we say goodbye. Every product that's on there is a product that we have used. Most of the products on there are things that we have invented, and we know that we had a problem like the incubators where we were losing puppies. We know that we needed to find a solution. We did, and now we offer those products to you. They're not just there because they come from China and they need to be sold. They're on our site because we use them on a regular basis. Thanks very much. We're going to do some more of these.
Oh, we're going to do more videos.
Yeah, right.
So if we didn't get to your question,
We're sorry.
throw it again. We'll
Tammy's
get
fault.
to it. No. But anyway, it's exciting to do this again, and
Yes.
we enjoy the questions,
Yes.
and you help us learn too.
And we kind of messed this up because we did have this as
Yeah.
a scheduled event. We had to restart the whole thing. We'll do better on this where we find out how to let you know ahead of time so you've got a link so that there's going to be some people who went to the link and it didn't work. We're idiots, but we'll get better at it. All right.
Yeah, and remember, call me if you want a puppy.
Oh, yeah.
We've got puppies between my son Cody and Cherub, and that's my granddaughter and my daughter Chanel.
What's your phone number?
580-799-1910.
How do they find you on Facebook?
Oh, it is Tammy Chopping on Facebook.
Okay.
Instagram is Love My Pups Official that Chanel put together. And then, am I leaving something?
So code is for all the equipment and things that we sell is mybreedersupply.com. And then I've got video courses, and that's at breeder101.com. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. We're
Bye.
signing out. Bye, everybody.
See ya. High five me. Yeah.